Good morning, this is Rabbi Shlomo Furst here at Yeshiva Sami Nafshi in Yerushalayim Kodesh. We're located on Rehov Zichron Yaakov number 6, close to the central bus station in the Hamichi Yeshiva's Knesset building. And so we're close by to the central bus station, so you can walk over here, bus if you like, drive. And if you're coming from Kutzlars, please feel free to join us for a shiur as well. We're in Pirkei Avos today. First Parak, first Mishnah, Moshe Kibbutz Torah Sinai, also Yeshua, Zakanim, Nevi'im, Moshe LaAnshi Knesset Gedola. We're exploring a little bit more about the Anshi Knesset Gedola. That'll bring us to the Magid Avos, Rashbat, on his commentary on Avos. That's the second major Meforish we have here. Yes, Lauren, would you like to give reading for us?
Sure. We're going to go to Rashbat's Avos, Perk Aleph. Zakanim Nevi'im, Nevi'im, Mosra, Zelazah. And Nevi'im, Zakanim passed on to the Nevi'im taught each other, passed on to each other.
Yeah, they were passing, meaning from one, though within that generation and from the next generation on to the next. Okay. So on this point, the Maharal goes into some detail. I'm not going to go into it too much right now, but because actually, thank you, Mr. Because the Nevi'im and the Zakanim actually existed simultaneously in the same generations. So the Maharal is exploring the question of whether they're two tracks, right, or whether they were intermingled amongst each other. So
Zakanim Ger to Nevi'im, that's Zelazah?
yeah, meaning according to the reading of the Mishnah, Zakanim was in the Nevi'im. So there was one group of Zakanim, and they transferred it to the Nevi'im, right? So now here he says, "When Nevi'im Moshul Zelazah." So that's the addition of the Magen Avos, Rashbat. So similarly to this, the Maharal is exploring the question because we know that there was Zakanim at the same time that there were Nevi'im. So the question of what is this what are these two different groups? I mean, it could have been that Yeshua originally passed it over to the Zakanim, and then if that was just that generation and only that generation, then from that point on, then when the Nevuah began, right, then they took over. But there's another way of looking at it, that they were two different tracks in the same generations.
Zakanim were more for learning, and the Nevi'im were more vague.
They looked at, as we learned previously, every Navi had to be by definition a Chacham as well.
Nevi'im Mosra, the Anshi Knesset Gedola, and the Nevi'im passed it on to the Anshi Knesset Gedola. Andrew Vavel, Nechemi ben Chilkiah, Baruchai Bilshan ben Daniel, Hanani Mishal Yezaria, Shahayu b'nei Ezra, B'binim b'Sheni, Vayili Mahem Kam Nevi'im, and among the two there were many Nevi'im.
Meaning within the Anshi Knesset Gedola there were many Nevi'im.
Sh'amru b'Perek Beis, the Megillah says in the second paragraph of Megillah, May have Ashrim Zakanim Umehem Kam Nevi'im. There are 120 Zakanim and Anshi Knesset Gedola, and many of them were Nevi'im.
Right, so that's a Meforish Gemara, right? That amongst those in the 120 Zakanim of the Anshi Knesset Gedola, included amongst them were many Nevi'im, many prophets.
Tiknu Shemon Esrei Brachos. They were masakin the correct form of the Shemon Esrei.
Right. So when that's what the Gemara says. So we should realize when we're saying the words of Shemon Esrei, we're saying the exact words that were given to us through the Anshi Knesset Gedola, and not only that.
The Kedushas Uvavdolos Gam Kein Heim Tiknam. They also were masakin how you say Kiddush and how you make Avdallah.
Good.
Kamoshe Niskar Perik Ein Ondim Brachos, as it's explained in Perik Ein Ondim Brachos. V'chagei Zechari Melache Hayu Ba'osa Sia. They were in that time period.
See, I think within that makes see those helping amongst those.
Oh, okay.
Group.
Yeah, that group that was helping in this activity.
The Gemara
Echad Megillah.
I guess the first part in Megillah.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like Tesvav Omen Aleph.
Yeah, right.
Ha'olu
It like more or less concludes. Oh,
Ki Malachi is Ezra. The Malachi was actually Ezra. Yesh Hanavim Harichu Yamim Ad Yimei Hatmayim, and the period from the Nevi'im extended up until the time of the Tanayim.
well, actually, not the period of the Nevi'im, but actually there were prophets, there were Nevi'im that extended their lifetime through up until the time of the Tanayim.
Then when do you consider the time of the Tanayim started?
Oh, so that's a good question. When it actually, the Hillel, Shami and Hillel were like basically at the very beginning, which was soon after the Binyan base of the
Seems like Shema Tzaddik, you know?
Yeah, Shimon Tzaddik.
Because if you say that Haggai, Malachi, and Zechariah were the last of the Nevi'im, so, and there's a lot, Hillel and Shammai are a long period after that.
Right.
So they're I mean, the only period the Zugos going up to that, right?
Right.
And the Zugos tonight, or?
Yeah, Jesus.
Okay.
Oh, so he explains a little bit further.
Okay.
He quotes actually Gemara's on this.
Okay. Kamo said these could be Avos, as we explained in the Avos, the Parak Aleph, in the first parak. Rav Dosa ben Hyrcanus says,
He's one of the Kohanim for sure, right?
Right. Which Amar Haggai, Shlosh Devarim Elu, when Haggai said these three things, Al Midoka Zeh Haya Yosha.
Right. Al Matucha Zeh Hayoshu. On this slab, on this slab he sat. Meaning,
A sled that you slide?
well, no, like a slab of stone, meaning on this stone, on this platform,
Not
right?
like a Dukah, like
Right, a platform.
I was thought of doing a press.
Also true. That's also when it comes to use in the kitchen. It's also this is made of usually stone or something, which is south. So again, we have to begin with
Okay, Rav Dosa ben Hyrcanus.
yeah. So you see from these bringing a raya that the Nevi'im lived. Now it could be that they weren't having nevuah at that time. It could be they lived that long, but maybe nevuah was Pesach. Maybe I'm not sure. You have to because whether or not they're actually saying prophecies at that time, I'm not sure. But it could be. But we see from this Gemara that they lived that long because we have Rabbi Elazar ben Dosa.
Rav Dosa ben Hyrcanus. He was after the Churban in the days of Rabbi Akiva, the Chaverov.
Right, see, he brings down here that Rabbi Akiva now.
But that's already happened 400 years after the Binyan. Rabbi Akiva is after the destruction.
So
around the time of the destruction.
Right,
Yes,
so
it's
that's 400 years.
It's 400 years after it was
Right,
built.
Right. So you see how long he lived. I mean, because we're saying now he's giving testimony. Right now he's giving testimony that Haggai, right, that Rabbi Joseph ben Hyrcanus gives testimony that he saw Haggai when he said these three things, right? And Rabbi Dosa, he lived until the time of Rabbi Akiva, till after the Churban, right?
Commotion is quite strong, as we say there in, I guess, Yevamos still, and Rosh Hashanah, and Rosh Hashanah is like Parak Ein Makirin, okay? The Tosfos and Kalim, I don't know what the Rosh Hashanahs are.
It's Basra.
Well, it says Kalim.
True. What's the number?
Which is the
The Tosefta B'Kalim.
Tosefta
And I guess that could be found similarly in a Baba and Baba Basra, maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's
Kalim just has Mishnah to it.
right, there's no good correct.
Amarat Sadak, Al Hatahar, Yoshev Chagai Movavi. Rav Tzadok said that he saw Rav Chagai said, Chagai Movavi said, Rav Tzadok Chaya Bisman HaChorban, Rav Tzadok was the time of the Chorban.
So you see another statement from the Tanoim that they give witness testimony that Chagai said certain things. Exactly.
Torah Nizka Shom the Parak Nizikin.
The one that governed for the
Maseches Yoma, Pirkei.
He ate, he was fasting.
They had a fig.
Maseches Yoma, Pirkei Bo La Kohen Gadol, Medrash Tehillim, Medrash Tehillim, Davar Acher Kol Daf.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, quite okay. So we see that the influence of the Anshe Knesset extended personally. It extended all the way through the time of the Korban till the time of the Korban of Bias and the Tanoim that lived at the time, and they established all the basic formats that we say in our prayers. Many of the halachas were given to them to format and give the Klal Yisrael. So that's where we come into go back to the subject we were discussing yesterday about that the Yirmi and Daniel stopped saying Nori a Gibor, and then the Anshe Knesset reinstated that. So you have the last paragraph at the bottom of that page, the Kedushi HaGriz, that's the Brisker Rav. He brings down the Hezbollah on that Gemara that we started speaking about yesterday, the Gemara Human Samek Tesamek Base. Amram, would you like to take over? At the bottom?
Yes. Lama Nikra Shemen Anshe Knesset Agedol. What was it called? The oil of the Anshe Knesset Agedol.
The names.
Their name.
Was their names.
Sheman. Moshe Amar HaMoshe the Hagadol Hagibor VaNora Ata Yirmiyah VaAmar Nochim Rakdim VeChal Aye Norakav. So Moshe said Hagadol Hagibor VaNora. When Yirmiyah came and saw the Goyim dancing in the Mikdash, he says, how could you say Nora? So Lo Amar Nora. Ata Daniel Amar Nochim Mishtabdim Bevanav Aye Gurtod. The Goyim, Daniel said the Goyim are slaving his children. Where is his strength? Lo Amar Gibor.
Where's the Gibor here? Where's the strength?
Atu.
That's basically, this is all the Gemara, more or less a quote.
Atu inu ve'amru adrabazo, higur rato, and they said that on the contrary, this is his strength. Shenoten erech apayim l'rashad. He gives pity to the Rashad.
Actually, he's patient. He's patient with the Rashad. I mean, he doesn't take out the vengeance or the punishments that are due to those who are going against the Ratzon, the will of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. He doesn't take out punishment from them right away. He gives them a chance to do tshuva.
Ve'elohem norotav.
And that's the that was the Gibor. And now what's the noira, the awesomeness of the Kadosh Baruch Hu?
Shemale moro'o shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu heich uma chad yechola leikayem ben almot. How the fears that the greatness is that one nation can live among the other nations and still survive.
Okay, now he's going to explain the Gemara here. What was going on with Yirmiyah and Daniel, and what did the Anshe Knesset Agedol reinstate? What was the difference?
And you have to understand that the Yirmiyah and Daniel did not have in mind that Hashem did not have those characteristics.
And he goes, it's not Chas v'Sholom to say that Hashem was not Gibor and not Noira, even at the time when they're Korban in the time of Gullus and slavery by the hands of the Babylonians. He always remains Gibor and he always remains Noira, right? And that's basically what we said yesterday. If Moshe Rabbeinu said it, right? So that's Netzakim, that's eternal regardless of the situation.
Right? Hashem doesn't change.
Absolutely not. Absolutely no change. Absolutely correct.
Ela saru shebizmana lo naru midot elo. That is, they felt that in their time they didn't see those qualities.
Right. So in a situation of Golus, in a situation of destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, they were the heads of the generation, Daniel and Yirmiyah. They did not see, like looking into the way the world was going, they did not see clearly.
Did not manifest.
Right. It wasn't manifest, and it wasn't. What they couldn't. So why couldn't they say it? In spite of the fact that it wasn't manifest, why couldn't they say it?
They didn't see it.
And at that time, Hashem, they felt, did not lead the world. Displays those midos.
Right.
But therefore, it wasn't part of saying the Shevach for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If he's not using them into delete to control the world.
So this is one of the main points, that when we want to give shvach to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? It's important that we give shvach in things that are understandable, and we can be sensitive and realize these praises. Right? Because when we say praise to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, or praises about a Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? It's important that our praises should be realistic. I mean, when you're praising the Kadosh Baruch Hu, right, it should be, you could be able to point to and say somehow that this is the Gevurah of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, this is the mightiness of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, this is the awesomeness of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. But if you say Hashem is awesome, and you can't really show it and prove it and point to it in some realistic way, it's very difficult to mention those aspects of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, even though they're eternal and unchanging. But if they're not being seen at the time, just like when we understand that at the time of Purim there was a Hester Panim, there was Hashem was hidden. That's one of the remazim that we have. That the name of the Kadosh Baruch Hu is not mentioned once in the Megillah. That's also a reason, because Hashem was being hidden at that time. All the things that were taking place at the time of Purim were simply, if you could look at it from a pure historical, sociological point of view, and you would never even imagine that the Yad of Kadosh Baruch Hu is at work here, unless you have obviously a chinuch and understanding the Megillah, right? So that was because Hashem was being mitzantzem. He was hiding his influence in the world to a way that it's not open and clear to see for everybody.
Would you say shlach, or those are characteristics, or?
Midas characteristics. Shvach is praise.
Praise.
Shvach is praise.
Shvach.
Shvach is praise, right. Shvach is praise, right.
Derech Shomer Melech HaKadosh B'Aseret Shemeshua V'lo B'chol HaShana. De'az HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mari Golom B'midat HaMelech. Just like we say, a Melech HaKadosh, the 10 days of Tshuva. Because that's the time that Hashem leads the world as a king.
Oh, so he's bringing an example. Hashem is always king, correct? Hashem is king over the. We give our acknowledgement and our acceptance of the Malchus, the monarchy and sovereignty and control of the Kadosh Baruch Hu over us and the whole world, once in the morning, once at night. That's part of the mitzvah of saying Kriya Shema. To be makabel, to accept on ourselves the rule of the Kadosh Baruch Hu over ourselves as king, absolute king. But nevertheless, we don't say Melech, right? Don't say Melech except during the Suras Mitzvah, on the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah and the 7 days hence, and including the last 10th day of Yom Kippur. That doesn't mean Hashem's not king all the time. We're saying Hashem's king all the time. We don't mention it as one of the praises of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, except at that time during the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, when it's evident, right, that Hashem is exercising his powers as being king.
ואנשי הכנסת הגדולה באו ואמרו שבכל עת ובכל שעה מונהג העולם במידות והנהגות גיבור ונורא. And the Knesset came and said that Hashem leads the world with all the midos of Gibor and Nora all the time. The whole od shekam yishon oti she'olam munhag b'midat Gibor. Because every time, as long as there's a Shem, Hashem has the midah of Gibor. The etzem kiyum im Yisrael mochiach im midat Nora. And it's because of Israel that we have the concept of Nora.
So 1 second. So this was now the chiddush, the insight that the Anshe Knesset Gedola had, right, beyond what Yirmiyah and beyond what Daniel had. What was that? Again, Anshe Knesset Gedola bo they came and said, Shebekol Eis Ubekol Shah Munhag Ha'olam B'midas Hagas Gibur B'Noira, that Kadosh Baruch Hu was leading the world in all times and in any situation, right, with the characteristics of Gibur B'Noira, right? Why? The Kol Oichis Kaimen HaRishoyim, the Hashem allows the Rishoyim to exist, right? And even if they're Moroccan in the Chekel, they're dancing in the Thai place where the Beis Hamikdash used to be. The evildoers are doing and enjoying life. Nevertheless, right, Hashem allows them to exist. If you take a look at that those people that are going against the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, that is the Gibor of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That shows his might. His might is that he allows his enemies, so to speak, to exist simultaneously, right, even when they're doing things which are against his will. That's a certain might that the Anshe Knesset Gedolah realized and made clear for other people to understand more than Yirmiyah and just Yirmiyah in terms of Gibor. And what about Noira? Noira was that if Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, are alive and well amongst all those nations that are not in keeping with our understanding of what we're supposed to be doing in the world, that's the awesomeness of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That we exist through Gullus, right? That's the awesomeness of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And that exists at all times. And the Anshe Knesset Gedolah understood that, they were able to give an insight into Hashem's awesomeness in spite of the fact that Daniel didn't see that. Okay.
ולכן אנשי כנסת גדולה שתיתנו תפילת 18 קבעו הנוסח אתה גיבור לעולם השם והיינו דמיתת גיבור פועלת בהנהגת ברית העולם. And therefore the אנשי כנסת, when they made 18, they added אתה גיבור לעולם השם because with the midah of גיבור is what the world is like.
So that's important for us when we say our praise to Kadosh Baruch Hu on our Shemona Esrei, right? When we say Gibor v'Noira, right? These are things we should try and even include in our kavanah. That Hashem's might is his Gibor is that he gives a chance to the Yerushalayim to exist, in spite of the fact they're doing things against his will. And the Noira, the awesomeness of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, is that we, Klal Yisrael, are still alive and well, even though we're in the midst of Gullus. And they had been talking, they had established these statements in the Shemona Esrei at the beginning of the Bayis Sheni, even before, right, there was going to be a second destruction, a second Gullus. So it's even more relevant for us, perhaps, to have these kavanas than it was at the time of the Anshe Knesset Gedolah setting it up. When they originally instituted and established Shemona Esrei, right, Klal Yisrael was back in Eretz Yisrael. There was Beis Hamikdash, right? So those statements were in fact historical statements based on what had been. But now we're amongst the Gullus again, and there's the Korban again. So these statements are relevant for us on a daily, actual basis, right? Not as a historical basis.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
We learned here in the passage on the side that Esther was considered one of the prophetess.
Right.
So what was this whole big problem about if we should read the Megillah on Purim or not? I'm sure it did not come from her, it came from her Nevuah. So why would the rabbis argue?
It's not Nevi'im. Megillah's not Nevi'im.
It doesn't matter, but I'm sure if Esther's asking, as a Ruach HaKodesh, even Ruach HaKodesh like this, you're going to Navi. But if you're going to give it Ruach HaKodesh, and the rabbis of her time, because they wrote who the prophets are, right? The prophets are. It was the
right, but Esther itself is not written as a prophecy.
So
Esther,
what?
Because the purpose of prophecy is a message, for people to, it's more of a chronicle of events.
Yeah, but
So-
I'm asking I think a little bit differently. Meaning, actually, you have the sheet from last week, buddy? Yeah, actually, I don't know if you missed that day. We discussed this. Last week's discussions were revolving around. Thank you. Revolving around the topic that a chacham is aided from a navi, right? Which means that the concept and the apparatus of wisdom is more advantageous than prophecy. Right. So we quoted that. We quoted the Gemara. Right. So part of the explanation was that Esther herself Esther herself had to ask the Chachamim, right? It's the Gemara in Megillah, Dav Zayin Amid Aleph. Am Shmuel Bar Yehuda. Shalcha lahem Esther lechachamim. Esther sent to the Chachamim. Kavani l'doros. Establish me, meaning the Megillah's Esther for all generations. Shalach la kana esamora salenu bein umas. So it's going to cause jealousy amongst the non-Jews, right? So she responded to them, right? Kavad kasava ani al divri yomi b'malki madi pras. I already wrote it. If that's the problem, it's already been written down in the chronicles of the kings of Madai and Pras. So you can't say that's a problem because the cat's out of the bag already, right? That's not a taina, right? So because she could do that as queen, but she can't say that the Jewish people should read it and be included in Tanakh. So Rav Chanina, Rabbi Yochanan, Rav Kavivi Masnu, they learned. Excuse me. Shebekulu Seder Moed. Okay, that's a technical thing, whether you change the names or not. So the more Rabbi Yochanan goes and says further, Shalchel Hem Esther L'Chachamim, Kosavni L'Doros. Should write me down for the generations. Right? So she kept insisting, and finally the Chazal agreed. But you see,
not after that she had the authority to make
no, exactly. That's the whole point.
And that she was in a Movavi, she didn't get that benevious to make a young thing.
Right.
Why not?
No, even if she had in the views that they should make in the view that you don't create halachas because of prophecy. That was the Rambam who read. The Rambam read it. I'll read you the.
No, I remember that from last week.
Right.
But if she got it through a prophecy, there had to be some kind of a system.
Right.
I mean, she just wasn't a prophecy just for one thing. I mean, she was a prophetess. She was a prophetess for the whole time,
okay,
right?
but
And the rabbis of her time, right? Anshikanes Agidol were the one who said that she was one of the 7 prophets, because they're who the prophets are.
right. Okay.
So if they say that she's a prophetess and they know she's a prophetess,
Okay.
it wasn't going to come from her. It was going to come from a prophecy somehow.
Okay. Fine. Okay.
So why the rabbis give her a hard time?
No, because you can't.
I thought prophecy was a specific thing. Once you got your prophecy, that's what you got.
Right.
That's why we talked about wisdom being better, because
Right.
wisdom means
I
you
agree.
can think about other things.
Right.
But if she got prophecy because of the Megillah, then that's her prophecy. That's it. It's
Okay,
finished.
so she got it. So why the rabbis gave her a hard time? They
But
have
any prophecy about
Right,
the only
that's all-
prophecy was for the
Right. But even if there was,
the Takanim,
There's a lot of
right,
prophets
even
who
if
don't
there was,
work.
I understand.
even if
I
there
understand. It
was,
doesn't make sense.
she
She's
can't
a
establish
prophetess. They
maybe
agreed
they
she's a
could use that
prophetess.
as a
They know
reason
she's a prophetess because they
to
put it
decide,
down. It's not like,
that won't-
you know,
that won't-
when they
well,
became
it's
about
like
the
going
prophecy of
into the
Yeshua, that
prophecy.
she was one of the prophets. That was,
Well,
400-500 years ago. Now they're saying it's happening now.
What was going to be?
But they have to decide whether there's a
There was, I remember seeing in the there was
I mean,
I was wondering myself, but
The message for
again,
Dora is
Abigail, what
we
was-
know
what
that
was
it's
her-
there.
Well,
Abigail,
but that's
you
the
have to know
question.
what the
That's the question that you would- if they don't think it's a message for Doros, they could say we don't need to put it in the Tanakh.
No, it's
No,
not.
but you're not a human
Thank you, but it's-
Levi. So
In my mind, it's not entering my mind.
No. So I believe the explanations as follows. First of all, apparently she did not get a prophecy that Kasvurni Vadora. She did not have that prophecy that Megillah's Esther should be included in what the Jews do in terms of halakha.
Okay.
But let's say even she did, right? And because even though she's again, you have an example. You have amongst the 120 Anshe Knesset, you had prophets. But if a prophet would get up and say amongst them the 120, and he was one of the 120, he says that I have a prophecy that this is what we're supposed to do, right? They couldn't decide what to do based on that, right? They could maybe take it into consideration, but that would not be covered. That would not force them to act according to that, right?
Okay.
So even if she had a prophecy that she sees through all generations, and the Jews in Tavshin Ayin Ches, we're in Tes, right? Tavshin Ayin Tes, the Jews in Tavshin Ayin Yerushalayim throughout the world, right? They're going to be reading Megillah's Esther. She sees, it must be true. It must be true. See, a prophet, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, even when Yaakov Avinu was in mourning about Yosef. So it says Rashi brings out the Shekhinah had left him, and Yitzchak, his father, was still alive. Yitzchak Avinu knew that Yosef was alive and well in Mitzrayim. He could see with prophecy that he was still alive, but he knew that if Yaakov Avinu did not have a similar prophecy, he has the prophecy, Yitzchak has the prophecy, and he could not tell him something which he is not zoiket to know and understand, right? Even if Esther knew that it would be prophecy, knew through prophecy that they were supposed to have Megillus Esther being read throughout generations, she couldn't force her hand to make that a halacha, right? She definitely would take it into consideration. If there's a prophet who's a true prophet and respected, obviously. And another thing we said about in prophecy in general, that when one prophet would have a prophecy, all the other Nevi'im also had a similar prophecy, but there was only one who was allowed, that was his particular tafkid, his mission to say that prophecy. But that's why it was verifiable. Right? In general, it was verifiable. Usually a Navi would not come up with a prophecy on his own because it would be verifiable through other Nevi'im. Okay? But yeah, it's a good question. That's why we brought down that Gemara. The Gemara said because that was a proof that a Chacham is Eidif Minavi, because you see Esther herself, who was a prophetess, she had to ask the Chachamim to allow this to be, because we don't have Rishus. That's what the Rambam said. We don't have Rishus through Nevuah, right? That the Rambam says, V'chein, this is the Rambam in his that's quoted in, I think, the Tamil of Seder Zroim. V'chein, im ya'ed hanavi, if a prophet will come and testify, Shakadosh Baruch Ormeloi, Shadin b'mitzvah plonis kach, that the halacha in this mitzvah is so and so. He Savoras Ploni, he emis, right? And or he'll say that the concept, the svora of so and so is true. Yar against Navi Yahi, you kill that Navi. Shuva Navi Sheker, he's a Navi Sheker. She'ein Torah Nisuna Acher Navi Rishona. Torah is not given after the Navi Rishon. Once Moshe Rabbeinu finished his Nevuah as a method of transferring Torah to Klal Yisrael, that has stopped. Nevuah is not a method of transferring Torah to Klal Yisrael. That only existed with Moshe Rabbeinu. Torah is given to the Chachamim, that they, through their seichel, right, to teach and understand what Torah and mitzvah is supposed to be for Klal Yisrael. Okay, good. Perfect.
Is a rabbi that would like to get more.
Interesting that he said that in the Torah is written that he Yitzchak passed away. Possibly Yitzchak before Vayeshev. It seems that after Vayeshev, and actually he lived after.
Sure.
Yeah, how come it's written?
No.
Yitzchak would pack him off again.
Again, Torah is not a historical document. Right? That's no rule. Torah is Torah. And Rashi says many times throughout his parish and coming that the Medaktik says in this week's parsha as well. Not Medaktik Mukta Ma'uchar. You're not Medaktik and what comes first and second in the Torah. Right. No, because that's the whole point when it goes into the it digresses to the Yichus all the way through Pinchas. It's a digression. And Ad Kedei Kach, I think it's Rebbe Meir's Shita, even in the same pasuk, you don't have a right to be medactic in time sequence. Right? It's not forced. The way the Torah is written is not forcing you to understand it that is the actual time sequence that took place.
Things some is trying to try to make as much as possible that there should be a sequence.
Yeah, right. In general, they say within the same parsha, because things become difficult if not there. It's like, but who's the Bechor of Yaakov?
And that's Reuben.
Reuben,
sure.
right? Because first of all, it says that he's the Bechor many times, right? But well, maybe the
Certain
psukim are out of order.
privileges were given away.
Yeah, that's something else, but many times you have certain things, but by Hekra, things have to come first. I mean, Abraham obviously
To
before
explain
Yitzhak.
or understand.
Right. So you understand within the context, right? But the Torah doesn't necessarily, is not limited by historical chronology. Yeah. It's not a chronological document.
He never called the Daniel. Okay, I don't know what you guys did. Well, it's a big idea, you know. We don't know you did that.
Don't see that. Okay, very good. We'll go to Mr. Brewer now, I guess, Mr. Shem. Okay.